I used to believe love was enough. That if you gave someone your heart, if you showed up for them fully, wholly, without conditions, they'd never hurt you. I really believed that. I met Daniel when I was 24. He was charming in that effortless, quiet way. He listened more than he spoke, made you feel like you were the only one in the room. The kind of man who pulled out chairs and remembered how you take your coffee. Vanilla oat milk, no sugar, always. For years, I truly thought I had everything. We travelled, we laughed, we built a little life filled with rituals, Sunday pancakes, movie nights on Fridays, handwritten notes slipped into lunch bags. I was the kind of woman who believed in partnership, in showing up when it's boring, in holding hands even after the honeymoon phase, and I thought he felt the same. But love doesn't vanish in a thunderclap. It fades in whispers, late meetings, missed calls, a strange new password on his phone. It started slowly, like a fog creeping in through the cracks. He'd come home tired, sighing like the world was too much. I'd rub his shoulders, pour him a drink, ask how his day was, and he'd smile. But it never reached his eyes anymore. "I'm just slammed with work," he'd say. "It's nothing." Except it was something. It became everything. His phone started living face down. His cologne lingered when he walked in, but not the kind I bought him. And sometimes he'd come home freshly showered, claiming the office gym had better water pressure. I wanted to believe him. God, I tried. Because the alternative felt like suffocating under my own skin. But the silence in our apartment grew louder. His eyes stopped searching for mine across the room. And still, I clung to hope like it was oxygen. Until that Thursday night, he texted me around 6:45. "Work running late, don't wait up." Just like that. And something in me broke, not because of the words, but because I already knew. I sat on the couch for nearly 15 minutes, just breathing, not crying, not yet. Just staring at the message, reading it over and over like maybe it would rearrange itself into something more innocent. But it didn't, so I did something I'd never done before. I followed my gut. I didn't text back. I didn't call. I didn't yell or scream or panic. I got up, changed into jeans, tied my hair into a low bun, and drove. Not fast, not recklessly, just steady. Like I already knew where I was going, and I did. There's a boutique hotel just 10 minutes from his office. Sleek, minimal, dimly lit. The kind you'd book if you didn't want to be recognized. I don't even remember how I knew about it. Maybe something he'd said once. Maybe my intuition just screamed there. I pulled into the parking garage, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear my own thoughts. Walked in through the side entrance, and at the front desk, I smiled politely and said I'd like to leave a surprise for my husband in room 4 and 12. Room 4 and 12? I hadn't even known for sure he was there, but when the receptionist smiled back and said, "Of course, Mrs. Wells," it was like the entire universe confirmed what I had refused to believe. I thanked her, took the key card, and made my way to the elevator. Each floor ding echoed like a countdown in my chest. When I reached the door, I didn't hesitate. I tapped the card, opened it. And there they were, him and her, half-dressed, frozen like deer in headlights. His eyes met mine, wide, horrified, pleading. Hers darted between us like she wanted to vanish. And I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't throw anything. I just stood there, quiet, still, and smiled. Because in that moment, everything became crystal clear. I didn't say a word, not at first. I just stood there, leaning gently against the door frame, letting them sit in the weight of their own guilt. You know what the funny part is? She tried to cover herself with the sheet like I was invading her privacy. Daniel scrambled to his feet, grabbing his shirt like it could somehow make this all disappear. "Babe, wait, it's not... This isn't what it looks like." God, that line, the classic. I almost laughed. I tilted my head slightly, looked him dead in the eye and whispered, "Route 412, huh? How romantic." His mouth opened again, trying to form a defense, but I held up my hand. "No," I said, just that, because there was nothing else to say. Then I turned to her, brunette, younger, maybe late 20s, red lipstick smudged on her chin like gilt in Technicolor. She looked terrified. I almost felt bad for her, almost. But then again, she knew he was married, she had to. "I hope he lied to you less than he lied to me," I said softly, and then I left. I didn't slam the door, I didn't make a scene. I walked down that hallway like it was a runway and I had just won. But the moment I got to the car, everything hit me like a wave. The betrayal, the shame, the cold metal taste of reality. I sat behind the wheel, hands gripping it so tight they hurt, and then I screamed. Not loud, not dramatic, just a long, breathless exhale that turned into a sob, and another, and another. I don't remember how long I cried. I just remember my vision going blurry and my chest aching like someone had cracked it open and left the pieces on the passenger seat. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't bear to sleep in our bed, not with the scent of him still on my pillow. Instead, I drove to my sister's apartment, told her everything. She didn't say, "I told you so." She just wrapped me in a blanket, made tea, and let me fall apart on her couch. For the next few days, I became a ghost. I still went to work, smiled when I had to, nodded through meetings, but inside, I was hollow. A shell held together by routine. I stopped checking my phone. Stopped eating. The apartment felt like a crime scene, every corner stained with memories that made my skin crawl. Daniel texted, called, left voicemails filled with pathetic apologies and excuses. I was stressed. It was a mistake. "I love you." I deleted each one without listening to the end. But the truth is, I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was done. And that was scarier than rage. Because when a woman stops crying and starts thinking, that's when the real story begins. Something shifted inside me around day 4. Maybe it was when I found the necklace he gave me for our last anniversary, hidden in the drawer, still with the tiny note that said, "Forever." I looked at it and laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was over, and I had finally accepted it. So I made a decision. I wouldn't beg, I wouldn't scream, I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of watching me fall apart. I would rise quietly. I would make my peace strategically. And maybe, just maybe, I'd let him see what he lost. I called my best friend, Maya, the one who always knew how to turn heartbreak into a game plan. She came over with wine, her laptop, and a spark in her eye. By the end of the night, we had a plan. Maya always said, if a man plays stupid games, we give him smart consequences. That night, her words weren't just comforting, they were a blueprint. I wasn't going to key his car. I wasn't going to post screenshots online or go full soap opera. No, that's not my style. What I wanted wasn't chaos. I wanted clarity and closure on my terms. First, I booked a table for 2 at the same hotel restaurant where Daniel and I had celebrated our last anniversary. The one with the rooftop view and overpriced wine. Next, I sent her, the woman from room 412, an invitation. No threats, no confrontation, just a white envelope with her name on it. Inside was a printed dinner invitation. An intimate anniversary evening, Daniel and Elise, Friday, 7:30 p.m. Dress code formal. And on the back I added a handwritten note. Since you already know him so well, I thought you should see how we celebrate. I mailed it anonymously, but I knew she'd show up. Because mistresses always want validation, proof that they mattered more. On the day of the dinner, I wore the navy silk dress Daniel loved, the one he said made me look dangerous. I curled my hair, wore heels tall enough to stand over my pain, and when I looked in the mirror, I didn't see the broken version of me from a week ago. I saw a woman with fire in her spine. Daniel showed up right on time. He had the nerve to bring roses, like we were still playing house. I took them, smiled, and said, "You always did know how to show up too late." He looked confused, tense, but he sat down anyway. We ordered wine, made small talk. I told him I'd been doing great. Work was good. I was reconnecting with friends, finally taking time for myself. He smiled, relieved. He probably thought he had a chance. "I really messed up," he said eventually, voice soft, "but I'm ready to earn your trust back." That's when I leaned in. "Daniel," I said sweetly, "tell me something. Have you been honest with her about me?" He froze, and right on cue, she walked in. Red dress, confused face. And the moment she saw us, the moment she realized what this was, her jaw dropped. Daniel stood up so fast he nearly knocked over the wine. "Elise, what the hell is this?" he hissed. "Oh, don't worry," I said, reaching for my purse. "I'm just making sure she knows the man she chose is still legally mine." I turned to her. "You two deserve each other," I said calmly. "But I'll make sure the court knows exactly when the affair started, and where it happened." She looked pale. Daniel looked like he was about to explode. But me? I felt peaceful, like the storm had finally passed, and I had walked out dry. I stood up, looked around the restaurant, and said loud enough for the nearby table to hear, "Happy anniversary, darling. I'll see you in court." Then I left. I didn't cry. I didn't run. I walked to my car like I was stepping into the next chapter of my life and slamming the door on his. Later that night he called 6 times. I didn't answer a single one. I blocked his number the next morning, not out of spite, out of necessity. Peace requires boundaries, and I was finally learning how to build them. The divorce papers had already been drafted. I just needed to send them in. My lawyer was thorough, precise, and thankfully, a woman. She didn't ask me why I stayed so long. She just looked at me, offered coffee, and said, "Let's get you free." That line stayed with me, not just legally, emotionally too. Freedom, I realized, didn't come from walking away. It came from no longer wanting to look back. The days that followed felt still. Not quiet exactly, more like my world had stopped spinning so fast. I slept through the night for the first time in weeks. I started eating real meals again. I even went for a walk without my phone. No calls, no checking texts, no waiting for apologies that would never be enough. Meanwhile, Daniel tried everything. He emailed, wrote letters, sent flowers to my office, once with a card that said, "We can start over." I didn't even take them home. I left them in the break room with a sticky note. "Free to a good home." My co-workers didn't ask questions. They didn't have to. They'd seen the change in me, the sharper smile, the calmer eyes. One of them, James, asked me to lunch, not in a flirty way, just a kind way. We talked about everything but Daniel, books, travel, childhood nicknames. And when I laughed, a real from-the-gut kind of laugh, I realized it had been months since I'd heard myself sound like that. Grief doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it seeps into your joy until you forget what joy even feels like. But sitting there, across from someone who saw me, not as someone's wife or victim or story, I started to remember I wasn't just the woman who got cheated on. I wasn't just the one who left the hotel room door open and walked away. I was a woman who chose herself. I didn't take revenge by ruining his life. I took revenge by reclaiming mine. A few weeks later, the papers were finalized. Simple, clean, no dramatic courtroom battle, just signatures, stamps, and silence. Daniel didn't contest anything. Maybe he was too ashamed. Maybe he finally understood. Or maybe he thought he could still circle back someday. But I was already too far gone for that. I had started therapy, started journaling again, bought new bed sheets, painted the bedroom a soft green, not to erase the past, but to declare it over. And on a quiet Sunday morning, I opened my inbox to find a final email from him. Subject: one last thing. I didn't want to open it, but I did. Inside, he wrote, "You didn't have to humiliate me. You could have just walked away, but you always loved making a scene." I stared at it for a long time, and then I laughed, because that dinner wasn't a scene, it was a mirror. I just held it up, and he didn't like what he saw. I didn't reply. I archived the email, and then I deleted the entire folder. That chapter closed. Sometimes people ask me if I ever miss him, and the honest answer, no. I miss who I thought he was. The man who kissed my forehead before work, the man who knew when I needed silence more than words, the man I built a life around, not realizing it was made of glass. But him? The real Daniel? The man who made promises with one hand and broke them with the other? I don't miss him. I mourn the illusion. Healing isn't a straight line. Some mornings I still wake up reaching for something that isn't there, not him exactly, but the version of me that existed before the betrayal, before the unraveling, before I learned that love can be a kind of blindfold if you let it. But there's something beautiful about being forced to rebuild yourself. You start over with intention. You lay each emotional brick down with care. Now I travel more. I say no without guilt. I laugh louder. And when I look in the mirror, I don't just see the woman who got cheated on. I see the woman who refused to stay small. The woman who walked into a hotel room full of lies and walked out with her dignity intact. I heard through a mutual friend that Daniel and the other woman didn't last. Apparently, she left him after realizing she wasn't special, just next. I didn't feel smug, not really, just satisfied. Because karma doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives in quiet ripples, in the slow erosion of the life they tried to rebuild without you. He moved out of the city, got a new job, started over, but he'll always carry what he did, and he'll never again have what he threw away. As for me, I started writing again. Little essays, short stories, mostly about women who find their voice after someone tries to steal it. It's funny, I used to think I'd tell our story someday. Maybe as a warning. Maybe as a way to make sense of it. But now, I don't need to. Because this isn't his story anymore. It's mine. And mine is about survival. About choosing myself. About rising, not despite the heartbreak, but because of it. People talk about revenge like it has to be cruel or loud. But I think the best kind of revenge is quiet. It's rebuilding your life so beautifully that it makes them wish they had never broken it in the first place. So if you're where I was, sitting in silence, second-guessing your worth, wondering if maybe it was you that wasn't enough, let me tell you something, woman to woman. You were always enough. They just weren't ready for the version of you that wouldn't shrink. And that version, she's coming. She's stronger than you think. So no, I didn't ruin his life. I just left him to live it without me. And sometimes, the best revenge is letting them watch you rise.